Hello everyone! Today we're going to be talking about Canon's new mirrorless camera, the EOS R, the long anticipated mirrorless Canon camera. It's a miracle. The day has finally arrived. Canon has dropped a mirrorless camera. Who knew the day would ever come? We're going to talk about my personal experiences with the camera, the quirks and quibbles I may have with the gear, and where I feel that this fits in my gear lineup. It's not going to be a deep dive review. We're just going to be talking about the basics. I'll run through some specs here in a moment, and we'll just see how good this thing competes with the 5D Mark IV, which people say it's very similar to. So stay tuned. So for specs, the EOS R is largely similar to the 5D Mark IV with a few key differences. We'll run through them now. It's got a brand new RF lens mount, which is a much wider diameter opening, 54 millimeter, which should allow for much easier to manufacture super fast lenses like f1.2 and faster, so that's exciting. We can look forward to seeing some really fascinating new lens designs in the future from Canon. It's got a 30.3 megapixel sensor just like the 5D Mark IV, although in my experiences it is slightly better. When I open my files in Lightroom, they seem sharper. I don't know if this is just me, but using the same lenses I use with my 5D4, it seems sharper. So again, I don't know if that's just me, but they does seem like they've done some tweaking there with the sensor itself. It's got dual pixel autofocus with 5,655 autofocus points. And what that means for you is that the autofocus points cover almost the entire frame of the image. And it also does that for video. So you've got almost every corner of the image where you have an autofocus point for video, which is great. Because the 5D Mark IV, they're a little bit more clustered away from the edges, so to me that's a nice increase in autofocus points. ISO range is 100 to up to 102,000. I don't know who's using 102,000 ISO, but it's there if you need it. It's got up to 8 FPS continuous shooting, which compared to the 7 FPS on the 5D Mark IV, so it's a bit faster on the continuous shooting. And you only get 5 FPS if you're using Servo AF, which is not too bad. It's got 4K UHD, 30 frames per second at 480 megabits per second, which is nice because I'm recording 4K right now on my 5D Mark IV, which everyone knows has the dreaded MJPEG codec. I've got a fast computer. Okay, a very nice computer, and it can barely play back the MJPEG files from the 5D Mark IV. So a nice lighter codec is amazing. I'm super happy about it. That's a big leap for me. So now next we're going to talk about some video features that I've noticed about the EOS R and what I like and dislike about that. Okay, so we've already touched on the codec and the fact that it shoots 4K UHD. A lot of people are just super upset about the fact that it has a 1.8x crop factor for shooting 4K. And yes, that is annoying. If you think of it from Canon's perspective, they're thinking, well, we have an 11 millimeter lens. You can put it on there and you'll still have a wide 20 millimeter field of view, and it's fine. And that's, I think, how they rationalize having such a nasty crop on there. For me, it really hasn't hindered my 4K shooting at all. I mean, I don't shoot a lot of super wide scenes, so it's really not that big a deal to me. But I see how some people be a little annoyed by that. And for a lot of my vlogging, I shoot in 1080 anyway, so you get that full frame goodness on 1080. And the reason why I shoot 1080 is because I'm traveling. I don't want to carry a ton of hard drives around, and 4K takes up a ton of space. And I'm not loaded, I'm not rich, I'm not, Mr. Hard Drive. So for me, it's not a deal breaker. I mean, it would have been nice to have full frame 4K, but it's something I can easily live without. It's not a deal breaker for me whatsoever. Video quality, however, is great. They've included some new features in this camera, which I'm super excited about. This thing ships with Canon Log, which is a nice flat profile that allows you to kind of capture the highs, mids, and lows of an image. You get more dynamic range, and then you go in and you post-process and you color grade later. Also, they've included peaking, which is something that we've not seen in a Canon DSLR ever. I thought that was an amazing addition to the camera. Peaking is super handy for those cinematographers that want to not rely on the autofocus and do their own manual focusing for a scene. It works really well, and I've been super happy with that. Video-wise, I think it's a solid camera. I've been using it for vlogging, like I said. The flippy screen makes all the difference in the world. Before I got this camera, I was using an A7R II for video, and it was okay, but the battery life was dismal, and the screen, while it did flip up and down, it didn't do that. And honestly, that is make or break for a vlogging camera. So this does the low light capabilities of full frame. It flips the screen out. This is the go anywhere, do anything vlogging camera, in my opinion. Now, yes, they did leave out in-body stabilization. That was a big bummer. No other Canon camera has it at this point. They haven't really developed the technology, as far as I know. I think we can expect to see in-body stabilization the next year or two from Canon, hopefully. Yeah, that's a bummer, but they do make up for it. They give you what's called digital movie IS, which crops a little bit of the frame in, but it gives you super smooth video without any major artifacting. So it's a bit of a trade-off, but it does work. And most of the time I have been bringing around a small lightweight gimbal anyway. So that kind of negates the need for IBIS, in my opinion. It's nice to have it, but again, not a total deal breaker. I've been shooting video with this thing just fine, and I've been super happy with the video aspects of this camera. Okay, so I've gone through the specs and some of the video features you can expect out of the EOS R, and now I just want to talk about some random thoughts and things I've picked up on in using the camera. One thing I'm super happy about is the fact that even with an adapter, your old Canon EF lenses work exactly the same as native. There's no sluggishness. It's not like using an adapter with Sony to EF. It is super smooth. You will not even know the adapter is there. It does, however, kind of limit me on what I can put on my gimbal. Some of the longer lenses, like my 15 to 30 millimeter, don't fit. So that's one problem, but overall, this adapter is brilliant. They also have a control ring adapter, which is a new thing. The control ring in native RF lenses allows you to assign a custom function to a ring on the lens that you can assign to ISO, shutter speed, whatever you want. And so they have an adapter doing that. Also, there's an adapter that has drop-in filter system. So that's amazing for these wide lenses that maybe have a bulbous end on them. You can drop in, 10 stop, 11 stop ND filters right in here without having to get some kind of insane custom filter holder system. So that I really like. Another thing that I've noticed with this camera, which is really cool, and I've never seen it on a Canon full frame system camera, it has an autofocus illuminator. It's a little light that beams out in super dark situations to help you get autofocus. I've never seen that on a full frame Canon before, and it is a very welcome addition to the EOS R that I'm super excited about coming back. The remote port is different on this camera than the 5D Mark IV. It's now a 2.5 millimeter jack, which I just happen to have one laying around in my drawer, so that wasn't a problem compatibility-wise with some of the gear I already have. I just found a cable, works great. Some other minor cool things that I've noticed about the camera is that I don't know if it's the new Digic 8 processor that they've put in it, but the low light capabilities of the screen are much improved. I was up in the country a few weeks ago trying to catch one of the last Milky Way shots of the season, and I could see the Milky Way through the live view in this camera. Compared to the 5D Mark IV, it is miles ahead in low light capabilities. I could clearly make out the Milky Way, which made focusing a dream in manual focus. It was really impressive. So that's a huge leap. I don't know if that's the processor or if they've tweaked the image sensor, but either way, it's a nice, wonderful little addition to the EOS R. So final thoughts on the EOS R. I've been using it, like I said, a week after launch date. I picked it up. I've been using it for a few weeks now, and it's been great. The screen is spectacularly good. I love the new video features like the peaking and the C-Log. That's an awesome addition. Comes with it from the factory, unlike the Mark IV where you had to have it upgraded, and that was a huge pain, and nobody basically did it. It's super handy for landscape shooting. The flippy screen is brilliant. I mean, come on, it's the only full frame that can do that, which is great. The low light is fantastic. I've actually found that the dynamic range is on par or better than the Mark IV. I know the Northrops did a video about banding when they pushed it by 5 stops. I pushed these files by 5 stops with 0 banding and very, very little grain. So I don't know if maybe it was the camera they had, but in my experience, pushing this by 5 stops does not destroy the file. So I don't know what happened in that case, but it has not been my experience. Video-wise, it's been brilliant, especially if you shoot 1080. It's great. The 4K cropping, yes, it's a bit of a pain, but you can work around it. You can get a nice wide rectilinear lens, and you've got a 21mm equivalent. So it's not a super big deal if you can get a super wide lens. Overall, it's great. It's a solid, brilliant camera that I'm very happy with, and I think it's going to be in my bag for quite a while. So if you enjoyed this video, I hope it helped you make up your mind if you're looking for a new camera or maybe thinking about picking up Canon's new mirrorless offering. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. I do a lot of light painting tutorials, and I kind of vlog about my professional experiences on some of the shoots that I do. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.